Hong Kong boasts the world's fifth busiest port. It handles 90% of the city's cargo that contribute to 23.4% of the city's GDP from trading and logistics. It is also a largest source of the city's air pollution, contributing to an estimated 385 premature deaths and directly affect 3.8 million people every year. That's more than half of Hong Kong's population.
I think Hong Kong government should go all out and try to do more to reduce ship emission. We will all be affected by the type of fuel they're burning and also the emissions coming out from the ships.
But the effort to cut vessel emissions cannot be done without cooperation from Shenzhen, which has the world's third largest port.
The ECA is so important, and we need to dovetail the ECA with the mainland policy because we cannot do that by ourselves.
In this month's Hong Kong Enquirer, we take a look at the health impacts of pollution from ocean-going vessels that ply Hong Kong's waters and ask what is being done to improve the situation. Over the past 2 decades, the government has done a great deal to reduce air pollution, particularly in tackling exhaust fumes from vehicles and electricity generation.
The PM2.5 emissions from road transport dropped by roughly 80% from 1997 to 2013, thanks to tighter regulations on fuel, while the level of PM2.5 from electricity generation has gone down by about 60% thanks to reduced reliance on coal. But during the same period, nothing has been done to tackle shipping emissions, which have now risen to being the biggest polluter in the city. Shipping emissions now contribute to 50% of the city's sulfur dioxide, 42% of PM2.5, and 31% of nitrogen oxides, all toxic pollutants that cause a series of cardiovascular and respiratory diseases. In July 2015, the Hong Kong government took a bold step, requiring all the ocean-going vessels to switch to a cleaner fuel with no more than 0.5% sulfur content while berthing at the Hong Kong port.
To give you a sense of what the fuel switching is like, we have here 3.5 sulfur fuel, which the ocean-going vessels used to burn when they pass by Hong Kong. And we have here the 0.5 sulfur fuel, which the ships will switch to when they berth in Hong Kong. And you can see this is much more watery, whereas the 3.5 sulfur fuel is very sticky. And it smells really bad.
Although the 0.5% sulfur fuel is a big improvement, in North America and Europe, ports are requiring a fuel 5 times cleaner than this with just 0.1% sulfur content. And to make a comparison to the regulations in Hong Kong for regular vehicles, they're using fuel that's 100 times cleaner than the 0.1% sulfur fuel. Last year, more than 376,000 vessels passed through Hong Kong waters. This map from a 2007 study shows the sulfur dioxide levels along major shipping channels and provides a glimpse of the air quality impact from unregulated vessel emissions. Since the new regulations came into effect last July, the average concentration level of sulfur dioxide at Hong Kong's cargo port and its surrounding neighborhood, the most polluted place from shipping emissions, has decreased by 50% compared with the same period in the previous year.
For the entire Hong Kong, because of the regulation, there will be 12% reduction of sulfur dioxide and 6% reduction of particulate matters. For those who are working on emission control, they will tell you that this is actually a substantial reduction based on just one intervention.
Hong Kong is the first and only city in Asia that has legislation to mandate ships at berth to use a cleaner fuel. For the rest of Asia, ships are still using fuel with a sulfur concentration of 3.5%. That's 7 times the level that Hong Kong put a cap on. But compared with the West, Asia's standard is way lagging behind.
The entire seaboard of the east and west coast of the United States, for example, are included in an emission control area, which requires all ships to switch to a fuel with less than 0.1% sulfur, whether sailing or berthed. The berthing restrictions are less effective in Hong Kong because a large majority of the ships passing by the city are en route to the world's third largest port, Shenzhen. Hong Kong bears the brunt of emissions for the entire Pearl River Delta region. Roughly 74% of the region's premature deaths from vessel emissions take place in Hong Kong.
We took a decision some years ago that it was very hard for us to mandate within this very narrow territorial waters, which was why we have, since 2013, been talking to the mainland to declare large emissions control area. So now, when we have people who ask us the question, when this will happen, it is the first time with the Chinese policy. So it's only been since December 2015 that we've been able to tell people the good news that by 2019 we will have an ECA.
Under the national plan, key ports in Pearl River Delta, including Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Zhuhai, will follow Hong Kong and require ocean-going vessels to switch to sulfur fuel, not exceeding 0.5% while at berth. From January 2018, such policy will be extended to all ports in the region. By January 2019, all marine vessels sailing in the PRD ECA are required to sulfur fuel lower than 0.5%. My question then from the Undersecretary is whether Hong Kong could take the lead again to exert stricter regulations against vessels to follow the high standard of using 0.1% sulfur fuel.
We cannot mandate 0.1 fuel without being assured that the fuel is available. So we're looking at that. Now, it is possible for Hong Kong to go ahead and say we will change our law for 0.1 fuel, but we're not yet in a position to be assured that this would definitely that there's sufficient supply for all the ocean-going vessels that berth in Hong Kong, not just the ones who cross the Pacific to go to North America or to Northern Europe.
It would take a few years for the oil refinery industry to prepare for enough supply for this part of the world. But it's a chicken and egg issue because the availability of low sulfur fuel was driven by tight regulations on ship emissions in the West. Governments in Asia are years behind Europe and America in pushing forward tight regulations on ship emissions.
It is hard to gauge how significant these changes will be until they come into effect in 2019. Forcing all ships to switch to lower sulfur fuel as they pass through Hong Kong and into the Pearl River Delta is a positive step, even if they fall well short of the levels in Europe and the US. The question, however, remains, should more be done to protect the people of Hong Kong from harmful pollutants from ships that pass through Hong Kong's waters? For Hong Kong Enquirer, I'm Andrea Deng.